Hi everybody. Okay, my name's Rich, and I guess this is probably my kickoff video. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I guess it's as good a time as any. I've been procrastinating about this for years. I think it's fair to say since 2009, I haven't really been motivated. Let's put it like that. There's been a lot going on, but I hope I'm back. The last year's been interesting, to the point where in January time, February time. Yeah, January. I went to the US and I sat the Cisco CCSI 1 day lab test, and then the second day I did the tutorial stuff as a trainer, and I passed. I passed on my second attempt. Unfortunately, my teaching skills were not quite up to scratch on the second day on my first attempt. I passed the lab. In fact, I was told I got a very good score. But on the teaching side, I think I leave a lot to be desired. Let's just say that way. To be fair, I'm a busy. I'm busy. It's not trying to make my own excuses, but teaching is not my day job. I'm an engineer, and I have a lot of work in that space. Uh, so teaching was not really something that I'd spend a lot of time concentrating on, although it's something that I have a passion for and I would like to help people a lot. So yeah, the CCSI was all about getting out of my shell and going in front of students, I guess, and kind of demonstrating what I know, what I don't know. I thought it would help me, actually. I thought it would help me to learn a little bit more of the detail, and certainly it would help me to leverage what I do know and make it in a more, I don't know, easily understandable, I don't know, way, so that students can learn by my mistakes, which I've made lots of, and could maybe absorb a little bit more of the dry stuff in a little bit, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek, happy way. I think a lot of the technical training is very dry, and sometimes that makes it very hard to absorb. So let's take networking as a whole. Let's try and understand the bits that are important in our daily lives. Let's try to recognize some things are less important and more, I don't know, how would you say it, aligned to an examination space. And as soon as we know that, I don't know, goodness, how many K values does the IGRP use by default, and which ones are they? And as long as we recognize that there are these questions which you will be asked in an exam that may not be relevant to your daily life as a network engineer, I think it will free your mind, and the rest will follow as the story goes. So today was, I guess, the first day I felt confident enough to sit in front of a camera and explain that I've not really been here, but now I hope I'm back, and I will definitely be doing more of these more often. Which leads me to my first challenge. I've used these virtual environments for ages. I got viral when it first came out, and there was a huge buzz about it. But quite honestly speaking, once I spun it up, I literally died inside it. I found it extremely complicated. And if you're like me, and I would expect you are really, you want to sit down and you want to learn straight away. You don't want to spend weeks and weeks learning a tool that isn't really relevant in your day job. Like I say, it's great to know viral, to understand the intricacies of it. It's a very powerful tool, extremely powerful, and the underlying nature with the OpenStack is something you could definitely transpose into a great job. I mean, OpenStack by itself, you could be a fabulously wealthy person if you understood half of that. Sure, I'm sure. But for me as a network guy, I didn't really want to go there. It's not something that I had an interest in. Well, yeah, an interest. That'd be unfair to say that I didn't, but an interest in it distracts me from what I want to learn, which is data networking. Whether that's a route switch or a service provider or security or whatever. You wanna get rid of all of this mind funk. You want to just get down to the stuff you want to do. So do I want to learn viral? No, I do not. And then I look at GNS3, I look at EVE-NG, and both great applications allowing you as a student to spin up an environment that gives you access to some significantly large networks that will give you exposure into technologies that you wouldn't see on your potentially on your network. You know, who's going to give a learning a student who's going to give a student access to a live network? No one. No one's going to do that. And who's got access to lab equipment that spans, you know, tens to 20s or hundreds of routers? No one's got that sort of economy to spend on R&D like that, unless you're a huge corporate. So these virtual environments are very, very important. And now, I next to me, I've spent the last few. I don't want to say weeks. It makes me sound like I've got a lot of time. I mean like evenings for weeks, building this ridiculously tiny lab. But I got there in the end. And what I have running next to me is what's this one? Let me think. This is GNS3. So this is GNS3 running on ESXi host. This is running EveNG on Mac OS. I've got this PC here running again ESXi with Cisco Viral. Why Viral? Because I need access to the licensed firmware, and by buying Viral, I get access to download the images. Now, there's been some question in my mind about the legitimacy or the legality of that, and I've seen videos and posts by a number of people asking, is it legal to use Cisco images in these third-party softwares like EveNG and GNS3? Quite honestly, and I'm not a lawyer, I would have to say yes, only because although the license the states you cannot disseminate or use this software in any other way than blah blah blah, and if you were to download Viral in itself, you could argue that those images are part of Viral. Buying Viral gives you direct access to the individual images. Now, I could be wrong, and if I am, then I'm sure I'll hear about it pretty quickly. I've seen some videos by a few much more clever people and much more industry aware people than I am. I'll shout out to David Bombal especially, who's deliberately made numerous times statements suggesting that buying Viral gives you access to use those images. And I know David's a massive fan of GNS3, so he runs those images in GNS3, and no one's shot him down. So I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with David, and err on the side of caution when I say that I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go with that. Where was I? Right, environments. So this on my screen is EveNG. Sorry, David, not GNS3. EveNG. I prefer this environment mostly because when I'm working away from the office, I can pull this up over a web interface, and I get access to these devices. For example, wait, let me see. I think I'm logged in as with the native console. Let me log in with the HTML5 console, and I'll give you an idea of what I mean. So you can log in here. This is the running lab that I have. I've got 16 routers on here, and when I click on one of these, it should, unless I'm being extremely unlucky, which I am. I don't know what happened there. Let me try this again. Let's log out. Let's log in again. All right, you see, you get this beautiful HTML5 interface, and it's just great, you know. So if I'm out on the road or if I'm at home and I'm away from my lab, then I can always dial in over a VPN. I can get access to this. Sure, I can use a terminal client. I can use PuTTY, or I can use Secure CRT, or I can use any shell and telnet in, and we're good, right? But what I like about this is it's quick. I don't need to depend too much on a terminal client. I can use my iPad. I can use whatever. Yes, I know you can get CRT on the iPad. I know many other clients on it. But anyway, the point being, I really do like this interface. Plus, also, I find EveNG is extremely stable. You know, unlike Viral, I can delete these interfaces, repaste them in. Don't need to reboot the box. Don't need to reboot it. It just seems to work for me. Okay, but anyway, yeah. Sorry, I'm spinning around. Let's talk about how I like to study. So back in the day, obviously we didn't have this. 10 years ago, we didn't have this sort of environment. It was GNS3, pretty much, Dynamips, um, which was very funky, but got me through. I studied heavily in Dynamips. Um, did it help me? Yes, it did. Did it help me get the lab pass? I can't say no, but what I found about GNS3 and Dynamips was it was extremely frustrating. You'd have to spin up the lab, and sometimes it would work, and there were crazy things about the software that didn't work particularly well. And at the time, it was within my budget to buy a hardware lab. I was very fortunate. I worked for a company that allowed me to invest time and money building this physical lab. So I would have to say that my lab was passed based on a physical environment, not a virtual one. However, obviously that was 10 years ago. So now it's all virtual, and people do say there are still tweaks and bugs and stuff, but I think it's a lot better than it was. Certainly from the things that I've seen, it looks a lot better. And as long as you keep on top of the latest available firmwares, I think you're always going to be on for a better time than it was like 10 years ago. Now this is a virtual lab, and I'm connected with this HTML5 interface, and that's all great, but it's a bit clunky. So you're not quite as productive as you could be if you were opening this with, say, secure CRT, and in like tabs, in like a tab format. So you'd have one instance of CRT, and at the top you'd have your tabs, or putty, or whatever you want to use, solar putty, whatever. And at the top you'd have the tabs, and you'll be able to click through the tabs, and you'll have all of this stuff going on. And also, I don't even know if this is in the lab anymore, but when I did my lab, there were no tabs. You had like 15 whatever windows, and you'd have to configure each router, each device in turn in each window. There was no tabs going on. So getting out of the tabs habit was something that I took seriously. So I didn't really use tabs when I was studying anyway. Now, when you connect with the normal client interface, what you'll see is, and this is what I found frustrating today. And this was the whole reason of the video. It wasn't for me to come out as like, oh, wow, I'm back, and this is all going to go great now. This was because when I sit down, I like to get work done. I don't like to mess about. I don't like things to be broken. If they're broken or whatever, I'll walk away. I'll do something else. So I find it frustrating when I sit down and things don't work first time. Now, here we have this same topology, but instead of getting an HTML5 interface, I've got the option to open a client. And in my case, I've configured Secure CRT because I've got that software. I use that for work, so it's on my Windows PC here. And when I click this, it opens CRT, which I'll just, where are we, CRT? This one. All right. So you can see I've clicked on R14, it's opened up R14, and that's all nice. It's a little tab. And I've seen lots of stories about this, lots of things in forums. I'm not saying it's the main problem, but it's certainly a problem. When you click again to connect again to a different device, it may or may not prompt you for these things, by the way. This is my setup right now. I've tried for days to get this to work properly, but it doesn't. It always prompts me for this application, and when I click it, it always opens up a new instance of CRT. It never gives me the tab option. So that's extremely frustrating. Why? Because I want it to open up tabs at the top here. I don't want to have to open up multiple instances of putty or security. It's fine for me. I mean, it will work. And like I say, better not to be in tabs. But for a lab environment, but for productivity, you want everything to be fast, and you need it to be accessible immediately, and you don't want anything to go wrong. So when this didn't go wrong, and I started editing registry files and editing, so the Secure CRT would only run one instance, and all of this stuff, it drove me crazy. Plus, I didn't like the idea of having to click one by one by one. I wanted just to click, like, is there a button up here that says open all sessions now? And maybe there is something there. I haven't found it. Maybe there is. So it got me thinking, how can I sit down and open up my lab as quickly as possible so that I can get to work as quickly as possible, and in the 30 minutes, 1 hour for lunch, or whatever, 15 minutes for a break, or at the end of the day, can I just sit down and do some productive studying without messing around? too much. Which takes me to my trusty IRIX workstation next to me. What I wanted to do was, wait, let me just skip back to the Windows box a minute. Yeah, that one. What I wanted to do was, I wanted to telnet to each of these devices in turn, load them up in some sort of quick way so that I could access each device in the most economical and efficient way. All right. Now, when you look on EVE-NG in the bottom left-hand corner here, you'll see, as you hover over it, the command, it runs telnet : //192.168.32.58, and then a port number. In this case, it's 60903. For R14, it's the same, but in this case, the port is 46791. That's great. So is there some way I can scrape this screen and push all of those telnet commands into a script and then, you know, get that to run secure CRT and open the tabs and do all that sweet stuff? Probably. And people out there can probably shout at me over the YouTube video, which I can't hear, sorry about that, telling me how to do it in Python or some other amazing script language, which I don't know well enough. So I old-schooled it. I was thinking there must be a shell script I can write. There must be some way that I can connect to this device, this EVE-NG box, look at the process table, find blah blah blah, you know, and do something like ORCID, or you know, find the port, the IP address, the port number, the device ID. Just there must be some way of doing it. So I went to my IRIX, my Unix workstation, and the first thing I did was set up a public key so that I could SSH directly into my EVE-NG box. So forgive me, but I'll miss that step out. The point I'm trying to make is not how you access a Unix system. Ooh. Thought that was going a bit slow. Woo. All right, so I'm on the EVE-NG box. So remember, we've got this virtual environment running. We've got all of these instances with a console port pipe, basically, available via a TCP, session socket. Now on Unix, we can do a netstat -an to show all of the ports that are open at this time. And so here we have an output from my EVE-NG box. We've got 443, which is SSL, as you know. 444, not sure what that is. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. MySQL, web port, SSH, and then a bunch of other random ports. There's an SSH. In fact, that's probably this session that I'm on right now. But you see all of these ports here: 46791, 52423, and that's great. So those relate to the running instances in EVE-NG. Brilliant, good start. But I don't know what those devices are. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say 46791 is R2 or whatever like that. So where am I going to get that information from? Well, I could telnet to each one in turn, and then I don't know, grep the string out of the telnet command or something like that, with an expect script, or you know, there are ways to do it, but again, that's a lot of effort. So I started to look for log files, because obviously anything that runs, well, usually would create a log file saying what it's doing, who it is, what it's doing, and I found these log files in this folder, and one of them is unlwrapper.txt, and in unlwrapper you can see a lot of things. Now this one, for example, shows it's starting the wrapper -C 56861. That looks familiar, looks like a port, right? A name R1. Oh, I'm getting excited. There's the QEMU binary running with all of this stuff. I've got a network interface. Very nice. All right. So looking at this file shows me that the port for R1 is 56861. All right. So I've got this file, but this file is appended. Every time I start a new lab, it's appended. And there are some reasons why the script I'm going to show you in a minute that I've created is not great. It's not perfect, right? But it gets me what I need. And I think the point of this video is just get yourself an environment that makes it conducive to learning. The point is you are comfortable, you are alert and you're not distracted by stuff going wrong. You know, the tabs thing is very annoying. It just, you know, you want to just sit down and make as much and make your time as productive as possible. So I've got this text file. I've got the information I need in the text file, and all I need to do is pull that out. So I wrote this this basic shell script. Wait, that's on the wrong system. So on my SGI box, I have a shell script called lab.sh, and in it, it's just a bash script. I'm setting the log file. That's the file we just looked at. The terminal. This is the binary that's gonna. I don't know. Look, on a Unix system, the shell is the same as, you know, the CRT kinda that you would see on the Windows system. All right, you're just using some sort of terminal emulation to connect to something. So in my system here, it's called WinTerm. There are other terminals on other Unix systems and other terminals on Windows systems. There's the host IP of the EVE-NG box. There's the user ID that I'm using to connect to the EVE-NG box. There's the number of routers, whatever, on the EVE-NG box. That's the first router ID. This is some stuff that I use to create the public key, so I don't need to use a password. So what am I doing? I'm doing a secure copy of the EVE-NG box, copying that file to my IRIX workstation. And then I'm doing a check to make sure that that worked, and if it didn't, I bug out. This is the local file, so I'm basically copying that file to /temp/unlwrapper.txt, same file name, doesn't have to be. Then I'm running this while loop. I'm incrementing the while loop as we go through, so it basically starts at R1. If R1 is less than R16, then do. Less than or equal to R16, then do. I set the terminal ID, so basically this is going to be a variable that changes as it goes through the loop. This is just a way of setting the title of the terminal to be the ID of the device, and you'll see what I mean when I run it. But really I wanted a way of knowing that when I open the WinTerm, I'm on the right device, so I want it to say R1 or R2 or whatever at the top of the terminal. The port is this is the meat of it, really. So I'm concatenating the file. I'm looking at the file, and then I'm pushing that through to grep, and I'm grepping for the router ID. So in this case, the first iteration, R1. So grep for the string R1, and then when you found that, look for actually that looks wrong. I don't think that's right. I think that should be it's an 8, but it's not showing it very well. That is print 8. That means like print the eighth string on that line. Okay, I know it says 0, but I don't know why. Something to do with the resolution. Sorry for that. So print the 8th string on that line, and this tail -1 is basically because as you stop and start the lab, it's going to append that UML wrapper text file. I don't need the process IDs of the routers that were started earlier. I just need the process ID of the router that I started last. All right. So this will only work for one running lab, and it will only work for the last running lab, which is all I need. You know, this is all about me. Sorry, all about me. The terminal command is the WinTerm, so I'm running WinTerm with the title of the WinTerm, the router ID. I'm running it minimized, so it will run the terminal minimized, and in the terminal run this telnet command. Telnet to the host, which is defined at the top there, 192.168.32.58, on that port that you found, because here is the port, so we've defined the port variable. These echo commands, you don't really need those. They're just for demonstration purposes, and I'll probably rem them out when I've done the video. And then at the end here, this is very important. Obviously, increment the device ID to be the next one. So in the first time through the while loop, it will be R1. Then increment to R2, increment to R3, and so on until you get to less than or equal to 16, and then it will die. Why 16? Because I've got 16 routers in my lab. Let me drop that so you can see we've got R1 through R16. You can't quite see that because it's off the screen. Let me see if I can minimize that a little bit. Oop, there we go. So there we go, R16 at the top there. Okay. Anyway, yeah, let's go back to the shell. All right, so we've got that shell script. I'm going to run it, And what we'll see it do is iterate through R1 through 16. It'll open up all these WinTurn windows and it'll tell it to each one in turn. And when it's done, let's just connect to a couple to make sure that it's done. You can see, look, there's the router ID, and there's the port that it's pulled out of that log file. Now remember, these aren't from that netstat. It's not grepping through the process tree. It's just looking at the text file. So if the text file's broken, or I can't copy it, this doesn't work. But it's good enough. This is all about getting things done, all right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not production. It's a lab. And I need a quick way of sitting down and getting some work done. So that's what this is all about. Anyway, this should be R1. Where else? And you can see at the top, it's taken the R1. 2, 3, 4, 5. This should be R5. These are XR images, so you have to do this thing first. Let's just log in. R5. All right, so it's working, and that's what this is all about, mate. This just sitting down and getting the job done. If anyone's interested in that script, I'll probably smash it in the comments or put a link to it or something. But otherwise, this is just the hi video. It's like a introductory video. My name's Richard. Everyone calls me Rich. I'm not rich. I don't really expect to be rich. This is I love this job. You know, it's a great job. Network engineering is really good fun for me. So when you do what you love, like I've read Steve Jobs, whatever. But when you do what you love, life does seem to be a little bit more simple. If you hate what you do, then you must be pretty miserable. And you know, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be in the position I'm in. So on that note, I thank you for watching the video. I do wish to help the community. So if you've got any ideas for videos, let me know, because actually that's half the battle, thinking about things to talk about. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'll do my best. I'm here. I've got all the things that I need to do some good content. I just need some energy to do it, and I think we can help each other. So help me to be a better teacher, and I'll help you guys with any challenges you've got in this space. And I wish you well, and thanks a lot. Bye.